Wow, it's too late. I'm going to screw this up all the way. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intune.training, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune, the Steve and Adam show with Adam and Ben. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Adam, how's it going?
I've had better days.
It's pretty late here. So all right, I'm just gonna run with this, Adam.
Do it.
We've been doing this for a minute. We've been trying to get a video out on time zones, and we keep second guessing ourselves and just spending forever trying to figure out why things aren't working, because we're both nerds and we're over engineering the problem. So, okay, what we're going to do today, this video is going to get done, I promise you. We're going to go through the process of showing you a solution that we have found to fix time zones being automatically configured using location services when you have autopilot configured to hide the privacy settings. We'll explain why that's important, but essentially Adam has found a bunch of new features, new settings that essentially turn this stuff on so that end users can do this stuff. And then we've got a little magic proactive remediation script that kind of ties it all together and does the final stuff. Is that about right?
That sounds good. What you don't know is that Ben has said that at least 4 other times as we've hit record, and you haven't seen those videos yet either. So
maybe that would okay. So what we're also going to do in this, and this is unheard of, is we're going to show you how to do it now, and then in the back half of the video we're going to get nerdy. This is the opposite of what we always do. So without further ado, Adam is going to share his screen. And we're gonna set these policies up. So we're gonna show you what you need to do right now to get this working, and then we'll explain why this works the way it does.
Assuming Adam can follow the script, we will get there. I promise.
Exactly.
Okay.
Cool. So what are we doing?
Well,
what are we looking at right now?
Here we go. Okay. So we've only tested this on Windows 11. We haven't done it on Windows 10.
Windows 11 does make the location services stuff is a lot nicer.
It's cleaner, for sure.
It's heaps cleaner. So if you need a reason to move to a Windows 11 in your org, maybe this is the one. It'd be a weird one to pitch to business, but whatever.
I'll hang my hat on this one, man. Let's do it.
Exactly. All right. So we got this machine that it's been autopiloted. Nothing, right? It's just standard build. The autopilot policy had the EULA settings hidden and the privacy settings hidden.
And so I'm a user. I'm logged in as a standard user, and I go here, and I can manually change my time zone. No problem. But I can adjust for daylight savings, but you'll notice that there's a section missing here. Get on a machine with an admin account. We'll show you in a minute. There's no automatically adjust time zone settings. But also my time zone has not been set. So
yes, correct.
Caveat with what we're going to do here is that, well, it's kind of we're forcing these things to happen. So even the PR, technically we could do the PR as a run one time where we've toggled the service on so that it does the time zone. Essentially, we want to auto set the time zone one time at least.
Yes.
Is kind of the goal here. Whether you choose to leave it on moving forward, that's up to you and your users. But this is how we're going to do it. Okay, so if I go under privacy settings, you go to location, you'll see that it says location has been turned off by an admin on the device. Well, what that really means is the default setting is in Windows, which we have confirmed painstakingly at this point, is location services are turned off.
There's two settings around that, and we can see both of those here. So location settings.
We can't see both here because we're a user.
Oh, sure. Okay. So, but there are two settings specifically that we're talking about here. So location settings being turned off essentially disables the GPS module on your device. The other setting is it not the setting in the middle, let desktop apps?
So let me switch to an admin account and show you the experience there. Because as you and I know, every time we're doing end user related testing, what do? We log in as an admin. And so everything just always works. And that's not great because we're missing some obvious things here that are like, oh, what's the big deal? Users can go turn on the location services they want. Well, turns out they can't. So
correct.
As an admin, I can go back to the same places. You'll see, go to time zone. Oh, look, I have an option.
It's all grayed out, but
it's grayed out because location services is turned off still.
Correct. Yes.
But if I go into location services, I'm an admin. I can actually enable. So this is the two settings we were talking about.
So these two things. So location services on or off disables the actual physical GPS module in your device. Let apps access your location, allows applications to interact with that module and that library of code to then do the things that it needs to do. So in this scenario, we want to let the time zone service get access to the GPS module on your device to figure out where it is and then set that time zone. So the reason
key thing to keep in mind here is that this setting, because this is a machine-wide setting, that's why it's an admin blocked setting. This is a user-based setting, but it depends on the admin having enabled location services to begin with on your machine. So that's the nature of it. That's why this is completely missing from the regular user's experience here.
That's correct. Yeah. So, and before we really go into like looking at the policy, it is important to point out that this stuff is off by default because there is implicit security things that you need to realize that, you know, if you have a malicious application on your computer that for whatever reason accessing the location of your device would be seen as a bad thing, you know, there's reasons that Microsoft have got this turned off by default when you just sort of hide those privacy settings. So this may not be something that you can do in your organization if you've got really strict security things, but this is one of many ways to sort of make this the most native way to configure this.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay. So we're going to go, and now I have no idea when these policies arrived or anything like that. I just know that the other day I was poking around and I found these settings and I said, wow, those look interesting. Maybe I should check those out. So
that's another thing that I wanted to talk about, Adam. So these settings that we're talking about here, and you'll share your screen and we'll have a look. Let's just bring that up. Okay. So the settings that we're looking at here are relatively new. But what's important to point out is that when I was doing autopilot and configuring policies for customers and for organizations, the idea of what the configuration policies were more around what do you want your end users to be able to do, or like, you know, access or deny, not configure. So these settings actually allow us to configure the settings for the user. So this is more in line with like the group policy type stuff. So, you know, previously all we could do was say, we want to have the user get access to turn this thing on or off, but now we can actually turn it on for them, which is kind of the secret sauce of the whole thing.
Yep. So so let's go into the settings catalog, because that's where these guys exist. And we're going to go create a new profile. We have to come up with a clever naming convention for it.
Very important.
All right, so we're just going to go create a base policy, and this will be enable
location services.
Now, the thing about this is that in the current state, an admin could just go manually toggle that setting. The concern is that, well, an admin has to do that. So the setting that we're going to look at, which we deleted all of our sample policies, and I don't remember what they are, Ben.
That's okay. We'll find them.
Okay, so privacy is one, but this is the user privacy settings. So we're going to add this one in just so you can see it. We're not actually going to configure this one. And then actually, let's look at all of these, because I went through some fun stuff with that recently, and so I want you to see what that is. Okay, so allow location. There we go.
Nice.
So this is the sweet one here. So under system, allow location. Now, if we click through that, that'll take us to the policy CSP description, but let's take a peek. So on a machine, the default is location service is allowed. The user, and really this should say the admin, has control and can change the location setting on or off. What we have to do in order to enable this to work is we have to force location on. So all location privacy settings are toggled on and grayed out. User cannot change, and all consent permissions will be automatically suppressed. So what this means, and this is kind of the piece that's a little bit crummy about this, is that the user has no granularity on like switching or deciding which apps can and can't access their data. It's an all or nothing policy whenever you do this. Versus as an admin right now, I can enable this, but then as a user, my user would still have the granularity turn this on, but then toggle individually.
Yeah.
What that means is by turning this one on globally, it turns all of these on globally as well. And that's not ideal, but it's the best we got. So anyway, without going down that roller coaster. Okay, but let's take a peek here. So this seemed like a good option. Like, oh, hey, let's, this would be kind of cool. Let's go down this path. Well, turns out you can do user in control, but users only in control if the admin gave them the control by enabling, by manually turning on location. You can force allow all and force deny all, and that's all apps. So this is equivalent to doing
lighting
this
everything up
as well. But it's more targeted down to the user side of things. Now you can then let apps access location, user in control of these apps. So you can, looks like, give the user access to be able to get granularity back on those settings. But anyway, it's a bit weird, and so we're not going to set that one. We're just going to turn this one on for the purposes that we have today. We just want to get this one flipped so that we can do the things we need to do. Okay, so we have a group that we need to target this to. Maybe.
Do you remember what it's called?
Time zone location services forced on, probably. But it could be the optional one, and it could be enabled. So we're just going to hit them all because I know the machine or this laptop is in one of those groups.
It's very
down
late
this
for
path a little bit. We're not going to go look in the groups right now. So Ben,
yes,
well, we hung up and then we got back in. So
I'm still here.
Hey Ben, you're still here and we're still hanging out. And so you remember that policy I was showing you a minute ago that I decided not to turn on the privacy one in the settings catalog?
Yeah, the one that I said I'm pretty sure you needed to turn on.
Well, you didn't say I needed to turn it on, but you said I could turn it on.
Okay, sure.
So, I enabled it and it's beautiful and I love it. And it's exactly what we thought it was going to be.
Okay.
So actually, I'm going to just share my whole screen because this is going to make this easier. So here's the setting. Look, it's 2 a.m. I shouldn't be doing this. We should have stopped already. Okay. Hey, Ben. All right. So under configuration settings, under privacy, when I originally was messing around with these, I was doing force allow, but then I wasn't taking advantage of this option. So when you do force allow by default is going to check this one and all of these guys
and gray them out.
This one is actually doing all of that for you anyway.
Sure.
But what's great is if you add this setting into it, these two settings together, you get the ability to granularly grant control to force this so that all of the things that we care about works. But if a user says, you know what, I don't want my camera to have my location, you know what, that's fine. I will let them have granularity and be able to do that. So what you can do is in those cases, you have to use the there's some info on the docs here that talk about how to get that list. But there's this one here.
We'll put links to all of this stuff in the description.
Let the user in control of these apps, and you got to do the get apps list and concatenate them together by name. But anyway, that's awesome because then now that gives us back that user control that we wanted. So it turns on the things we want, does these things. It still doesn't doesn't do anything magical for the time zone for the regular user, but it certainly addresses the major issues that.
Yeah, it gives you, so it's on by default with the user having the option to suppress some of that stuff, which I think is cool. I don't think most end users are really going to play around with it, but it's nice to give them the option.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome.
Okay, so now that we've done that, what we're going to get is here under, this is our policy manager key. You'll see that that's not correct. Okay. Allow location is set to 1, which is what we were just looking at, where that is saying that the admin is in control of this. Now, what we're going to see is that this is going to now be flipped to on, and it will say organization manages some of these settings. So let's go
Correct.
and sync.
Okay.
All right, so
Cool.
we are back. Okay, so we are back on our machine, and we have synced the policy. And so now, if we go back into location, we'll see some of these settings are managed by your location. So everything's lit up. And if we go in the registry, we see that our value of allow location changed to 2, which goes to the policy of the CSP that tells us, oh, where did it go? I had it on the screen. There it is. There it is. Okay. So allow location. It's a 0 is forced off. A 2 is forced on.
And 1 is user control.
Yeah, whatever. 2 forced location on, and 1 is user in control. So the default user in control. And it's great there is if we go and we hit our MDM report, we can see that, and it even tells us that that's the default of the device, or of that setting if we had not set it.
Yeah. So let's provision that. But there is one more thing that I can see on your screen, that the time on this on this laptop is not the same time as 1:23 in the morning for you. Just reminding everyone that has fun comments for us that yes, it's almost 1:30 in the morning, and we're working on this stuff. So
because
you're welcome.
we want to inform, and yet this is the only time we have to do this.
Important for us.
Okay, so here's the setting, allow location. The default, this column means this is the default value, and here's our configured value.
Yeah.
So if we unconfigure this, what's nice is this actually goes back to allow location set to 1. So so that's nice. All right. So yes, you're correct. What is the problem now? Well, as an admin, let's go back and see the time zone option. We now have the radio button to change to automatically set the time zone. Well, that's cool. What happens if we switch back over to the regular user? This is the part that boggles my mind. So what do we know about Windows services, Ben? What is unique about them? Unless the user has been given like granular permissions, what do we know?
They don't have the ability to toggle the effect of them, right? You can't turn a service on as a standard user, essentially, unless it's running in the user context.
That is correct. And in fact, where's that? Oh, never mind. Whatever. You can go into the control panel applet. I'm not going to go down that route. Okay. So what we need is to enable the time zone auto update service for our
which
users.
Is essentially, so that setting we saw as an admin is essentially just enabling the time zone updating service to turn on periodically.
Yeah. So the radio button that we're missing here for auto update time zone will show up the moment we flip this service to manual. It will enable that radio button and it will appear under the user context. But well, we're not going to do that manually because that would be silly. So let's go the long way around and go make a script. Well, here, this is cool. I've got a script already written in Notepad because, I mean,
are you even got VS Code on this? Anyway,
let's flex right there. I've got all kinds of cool
you can control and scroll and make this bigger. The new Notepad is awesome.
I've got VS. Yeah, I've got Visual Studio.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Let's just get out of here.
Yeah. So we'll publish this anyway, and you can go look at it elsewhere. But I tried. Okay, so Ben, help me with this because you're a coder. You know all sorts of magical things with coding. Sure. But the way that I have been trying to approach all of my proactive remediation stuff is or really just any scripts that I'm writing these days, is I'm trying to make them very reusable. So instead of making this my time zone auto update utility, I made this into a manage a service utility. So if you want to do any service, it should handle any of those variations of them. So anyway, that's kind of the goal here. Now, we, interestingly, we could use this as a run script or as a script, a PowerShell script in Intune and deploy it like that. So it just kind of gets pushed down one time and stuff in its current form. It would work. but we've got proactive remediations, and so that's kind of a better place to do this because it gives us all the auditing and logging and stuff.
It is. I also believe that proactive remediation should be the sort of the go-to standard for deploying PowerShell scripts, even if you only want them to run once, because you have the option.
There's an
of doing
option
that.
to run once. Yes,
exactly. But
which
you
is nice.
get a lot more decent metadata around the success or failure of that script. So it's just a better spot. We've done videos on that before, but like functionally, I think this is really, really good code. Adam, congratulations, 10 out of 10, gold star.
The thing I've seen that I'm missing here, though, is that this is not built as a proactive remediation. It's just a function by itself. So we need to wrap it in some PR magic so that we get some nice language. So we're going to pause the video for a moment, and we're going to let Ben do some quick magic on this, and we're going to bring it back, and it's going to be beautiful. And in fact, we're just going to let Ben share his VS code because he doesn't have his admin service code sitting there for MMS is prepping. So,
all right, cool. Let's see what I can do. We're back. Okay, so during that pause, Adam went and got some water. I opened up another beer, and I wrote some very, very rough detection and remediation scripts. Now, in all honesty, you probably only need to do this as one script. You probably just need a detection script to run the code, and then you run it once. Because as we were saying, you don't need to run this every time, but we may as well this is just how we're going to do it. I would not recommend downloading this code and deploying it without reviewing what it's doing. Check everything as much as you can. Realistically, what we're doing is a manual change. So all we're doing is we're checking this service to see whether the value of the start type is manual. Now, by default, it's not. So what we want to do is we want to switch it over. So the detection method script is going to check to see whether it is set to manual. If it is, we're going to say it's all good, and we exit with 0, which means everything is great, and we do not need to hit the remediation script. If it is not, if it is set to anything else, then it's not configured as we expect it to. We're going to send out a non-zero exit. So I've done videos on PRs before. Essentially, anything other than 0 is a failure in the eyes of the remediation stuff. So that's just going to fail over and immediately run this remediation script. The remediation script is fairly simple as well. So we use the function. I turned the code that Adam had written into a function called manage services. There's squiggly lines because manage is not a permitted verb. Fight me. We're going to go into
if you don't put the dash there, then it doesn't know, and it just works.
That's true. So okay, we got two settings here. The service name is TZ auto update. So again, we can change this to work for whatever. But we're using TZ auto update, and we want to set the action to manual. So the fact that we're in the remediate script in the PR stuff means that it is not set correctly. So we don't need to check for that stuff. So we've got a function. Again, this is the thing that Adam wrote, which is really cool. It handles everything we need. And then the process itself, really simple. So we're literally, okay, so we hit this try block. We're going to run this managed services. We're going to set the value of the Timezone service to manual. We're going to exit with happy days. If there's any errors, we're going to write an error out. Who knows whether the code's going to work? We haven't tested it. So we're going to save that. We've created the proactive remediation script already, but if I open this up just so you can see it, is it
show how you get there, just in case people need a reminder.
This is kind of
I only have to look for it about 6 times before I get it every time at this point.
So we go into reports. We go into analytics, endpoint analytics. Then we go into proactive remediations. If anyone from Microsoft is watching this, put this in a better location. I don't like it there, but here we are. So this is what we do.
It's not a report. It's not a report.
It can be, the output can be used as reporting, so I can understand the point, but it's not the point. So we've got this PR script set, Timezone service set to manual. There's nothing super exciting about what we've done. We've set the thing to run every hour as often as possible, just so that we can get this out to our machine. As I said, though, this really only needs to be run once. So you can set this to just deploy out and run. The code is fine. We've deployed it out to all of the groups to try and hope that we hit the machine we want. We'll see if it applies, and we'll jump back over onto that machine.
Okay, here we go. So we're gonna just manually push this one through because why not? All right.
It's late. We want to be done.
We haven't tested it. Maybe it works. Look, it's exiting the script for us, and
There we go. Hey, we got the notification. So this is what the end user is going to see. They're going to see a prompt stating that due to the time zone service being turned on and all of the settings that we've applied through the policy, that essentially your IT department has changed the time zone for you.
And there's what our log would look like. Look at that.
Yeah, and that's what that looks like, which is awesome. So that's been turned on. And that's it as a sort of a general, like, this is how we can actually make location services configured the way that we want it to, and then that final step of turning on time zone through a proactive remediation script. So it definitely doesn't need to be complicated. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we can dive into, and I know that we said that we might do a deep dive on this stuff, but I don't know, Adam, did you feel like maybe doing a little an extra video on the ins and outs of the registry stuff later so that you can get some sleep?
Oh, come on. I don't want to revisit this thing. So let's just do it right now real fast.
That's fine.
Yeah,
let's just have a look at the stuff.
Because, we may start it, and then if it chops off abruptly, you'll know that we went off the rails and it didn't go the way we thought. But here we go. All right. So am I still sharing my my VM or whatever, the laptop? Okay, perfect. Yes. So we've already got time zone fixed, and actually let's go this route. So let's go back here and let's prove to you that that I was wrong. So now all of our time stuff is completely locked out. So that's kind of fun. I don't know that I expected that. And here
it kind of doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, and this is something that I always talk about sort of offline when we're not doing videos.
It's a user's work device. The company's controlling this stuff.
Sure. But so what I'm trying to say, and everyone that's watching this video, you're all admins, all right? End users are not coming on to watch these videos. We care about what this stuff looks like. End users do not care. They are not going to go in and set auto time zones and all that sort of nonsense. It's our job to make it work the way that we expect, and to make the experience as painless as possible. And what we've done works. The time zone is now configured. We don't ever need to think about it again. So,
and here's the thing, you can change your time zone here. So,
yeah, exactly. We found a fun UI bug with that the other day.
Maybe it comes back after we close it and reopen it or something. Because there was definitely a deal with that where, like, no, okay, whatever. Anyway, so you can in fact change it here, and it will reflect there. So there's still an option. So yeah, there is a UI bug, it appears, because this should still be user editable, and yet it's not, especially if I go to the right place. But you can see it changes and everything. Additionally, you'll notice you still got to be an admin to change date and time on a machine. So yeah, what are you missing here? The only scenario that I feel like would be just kind of a weird thing is when a user is traveling or something and they don't expect the time zone to have changed, and so they're still looking at their clock because they're on the time with all their colleagues and stuff. Like, that would be the thing where maybe it would get annoying for someone. So anyway, do with that what you want. But let's go dig into this just a minute and see some cool things. Okay, so
cool things are relative here. We're going deep into the registry.
Okay, so step one, we're going to go here and we're going to set this back to 1, which is, well, actually, I need to do that as an administrator.
You do.
In fact, I'm going to do all of this as an admin just to make this really easy to see everything. Way I'm not toggling back and forth. Okay.
Drop that TeamViewer thing out of the window.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to set location back to 1, allow location back to 1. That's going to then allow us in the UI, which also could be a UI bug because we had it open on two profiles.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Stranger Things, man. Good show.
Great TV
show. Okay, so now we've got location services sitting here, and it's back to disabled because we removed the policy effectively, and that's really great because we know that if we remove that policy that we configured a minute ago, it's going to revert back, which is where we were before. All right, so now we're going to scroll down to this other location. Now, if you've messed with this at all, you've been here before in some of the other scripts you've used for Windows 10. So under consent store location, this is the machine-wide consent for location, which lines up with what we are thinking here. So if we put allow here, And we go back. Got to get back out and back in. Look at that. That is the registry key that toggles that consent. Okay. So then if we take that same path and we go to H key current user under location, it's set to allow. We set that to deny.
Dent.
Doesn't work, I promise. But you'll notice that there's not a tri-state here. It's on or off. Now, I didn't point it out a minute ago, but this was set to on a second ago, and now it's set to off. So those are the registry keys that are governing those settings. Now, you'll notice that underneath here, there are also the apps and stuff. The other apps. Now, this is the stuff that we aren't getting into on this video that we talked about those settings in the privacy a minute ago with this in the settings catalog. Yeah. These are the application names that you would need to concatenate, semicolon, or whatever delimited or really just add them in the list, I think.
Yes.
I was reading the CSP policy, but in Intune, it's all broken out. It concatenates for you. So you would need to list every app that you wanted to give the user control of moving forward in order to enable them to do more things. So anyway, that's kind of cool knowing that's the direct impact of changing those settings in this interface. So if you've used these scripts on Windows 10, you've seen those settings. I just want to show you, give you the correlation in Windows 11. Okay. Yeah. So let's go check out another thing. I know I've been geeking out about this, and I'm finally getting to talk about these pieces again.
It's good. No.
So you guys Ben's been sitting through this with me a lot, and it's 2 a.m. for me, and I'm still talking. Okay. So you may have previously seen, by the way, there's this really cool policy. If you've got MDM wins over GPO enabled, which you should if you're transitioning and stuff, it sets these registry keys, which is really, really cool because it tells you explicitly which group policies it's going to override and what exact location that translates to. So it's going to say, if you have this group policy enabled, so if you were to go browse here and see this that was set for GPO, this is the CSP location that Intune is going to set for you. So that's pretty easy too, to go and look up this GPO path and go look up locations and sensors GPO, which I can't show you on my screen because that's not going to go there. Let's go. Okay, we're not advertising for TeamViewer.
We're also not advertising for group policy.
Yeah, I know. Okay. But if we go into locations, sensors, GPO, this would be the equivalent, so these are the settings that you would have in the GPO. Yeah. So just while we're there, that's kind of a cool thing to know. And because if you were researching this like I have been, you'll see people say, here's all the ways you can turn this on or off. And this is one of those things. Go set the policy key to turn this on and off. So anyway, that's the translation, and that you can see that takes us to allow location. Okay, cool. One or two more quick things here. Okay, so we see this capability access manager when we were looking under consent store. If we go under capabilities, you also see the same folder structure. Under here, we have location, and we have legacy interface class GUID. And to make a note of that, okay, there is, we're going to go under Windows NT current version, and we're going to go to sensors, sensor, and overrides. You see I messed with this earlier. Okay, so in those policies, you also would have seen a thing where you would have to toggle this setting to set the permission on the sensor to on or off. Well, you can, this number is what this GUID is directly what's correlating with the GUID from the capability manager. So we can see that GUID directly relates to location. So it looks like it's an override permission for location to toggle.
Is this also when you're playing with the sensor? So in one of the many attempts at doing this video, we dove into one of my solutions that was like essentially working natively with the sensor library. Is this value the thing that we're talking about specifically? So like,
You
when we
know?
go and check the sensor state, like it's just pulling that data.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Let's check it real fast. So I'm going to pull open your code and copy some
Mhm.
code over there. Okay, so copy this. I'm going to actually, since I'm in this window, I'll just open it here.
Everything's unscripted. This is the deep dive time.
Yeah, this is where we kept starting every time and realized that we were going off the rails, so we needed to have a different way to do this. Okay, so
Copy, yeah.
yeah, that should be it, right? That's all I need.
Yep.
Okay.
Should be.
Okay. So Ben, talk through this for a minute and tell us what we're doing with this guy. And
Yeah,
actually,
cool.
before we get into that, let me just show you this one. That didn't do what I was expecting at all.
Correct.
Okay. You'll notice, and we didn't prove this in the beginning, but there's
Mhm.
a geolocation services
Mm,
service.
yeah.
It's running from the very beginning. Okay.
Yeah.
So before we do that, we're going to turn off location. So we're
Mhm.
reverting everything back to disabled.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm going to turn on our time zone auto update service as well, or
You
turn
wanna
it
turn it
off,
off?
disable it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And watch, it's going to get remediated for us while we're in the middle of this.
Oh,
Be like,
probably.
how did we get weirdness? Okay. So now everything is back to how it was. Okay.
Mhm.
So now tell us what this code's going to do for us.
Yeah, so this is real simple, but so like if we go line by line. So the first thing we're doing is we're adding the system device .NET library so that we can work with the next stuff, right? This is probably natively existing, but we just add it anyway. The next thing is we're accessing or starting a new object of the geo coordinate watcher, which is literally just code that is going to watch for that location services thing so that we can do things. So the next thing we're going to go, okay, so now we've got the object. Let's start an instance of that geo coordinate watcher. So we're going to start.
And so this isn't turning a service on. This is starting a watcher for that.
Correct.
Right.
So now what we can do is if we have a look at what the GW object actually gives us, so just open that one up. So now we can see a bunch of information around accuracy and movement threshold. And the important thing here is that permission is denied. So right now I can start the geocoordinate watcher, but because the location services are turned off, I can't do anything with that information. And this is kind of what that allowing apps access to the thing does. So we're, in essence, creating an application and we want to get that data, but because we've explicitly said, no, we're turning that off, we don't get access to that.
Okay. And so what we're hoping, or what your question then is if we toggle this to permission state 1, does that enable the GeoWatcher service to function, if I can find
Correct.
the
So
right
just
window?
run line 2 and 3 again.
Start that again. Okay.
Yeah. And have a look at GW. This is just curious. We may as well troubleshoot while we're on a video. No, it doesn't. Okay, so that's beyond the registry. So I guess this is lower level than the registry because we're actually working with the .NET libraries and not the registry. So that makes sense.
Okay.
But yeah, so functionally,
so can you from this code, like this watcher?
No, you can't do anything.
It can't do anything, right?
Correct. You cannot do anything if the status is not ready. And specifically, if it's set to denied, then we're not going to do anything. So the code that we're looking at is from if we turn that on and run it again.
And just to double check, oh, look at that.
It changed the permission state.
Changed our permission state. I was, you know what? I forgot I had disabled it because I was like, why is that set to 0? I was really expecting it to be set to 1 when we came here a minute ago. So yeah, okay. So that turned on. So what we got with enabling that was 2 things. We got the sensor permission state and we also got the consent flipped to allow.
Yes.
And now if we rerun this, we are going to expect to see it set
slightly different.
Initializing.
There you go. So check that again, and you should see the status now is ready.
Is it going to give my geolocation?
No, that's in permission.
Okay. Oh look.
It's that. Wait, it's still saying denied. Let's try.
Well, it went back to denied. That's weird. Let's check the registry.
Go into settings. We're getting in the weeds. It's that let apps thing. Scroll up. Go to location. Turn that on.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, good. Yeah. So then this is
it's working the way it's supposed to. So we're allowed to turn
access.
Yeah. So we were allowed to turn on the service, which is why we saw initializing. But then when we went to try and get, and this is important, when you're working with this library, this GPS thing, you need implicit access, so nothing else can use it for the little bit of time that you're playing around with it. So like we initialized and then it went, nah, you can't have access, go away. And we got denied. So let's run it again and see what we get. Check it again.
Granted.
So now we've got granted.
Ready.
See, granted and ready. Excellent. So if we were to dive into the position value, so gw.permission, position rather, that's where you would start seeing fun geolocation stuff.
But I don't want to have to edit this far in, so we're not going to do that. But that would show my GPS location.
So this code is part of a thing that I did as one option of if you just wanted to set your time zone correctly, then you were allowed to turn location on, then you could use the GPS data and then figure out what the time zone is and manually do it. Adam's way is much better because it's closer to natural without having to do insane things like this. Other stuff that I've done.
Effectively, your method kind of I mean, it's very slick. You could make this into like an app or something that you could even elevate permissions to, so that it could handle the one time, like, hey, I want to update my time zone kind of thing. If you wanted to give your users a control without having to use the policies, which seem to be very explicit, like on or off kind of deal.
Yes, correct.
This would allow you to give you that sort of control if you needed to advertise that to a user or something. So that's kind of cool. But as you can see, it's the simplest thing that you would think, like, why in the world can't we get time zones in autopilot? And yet we just struggle to, but when you start to look at the complexity of the security piece of this, there's so many things that are tied to that experience that make this a really important security feature to have control over. But I think understanding under the covers what's going on, like the reason I went down this path was really, I just stumbled on this, honestly. I just happened on it. But I saw all these scripts. I've known about the time zone scripts for a long time, and I've just never, I've never needed to use them yet. And yet I looked into them and I said, man, why are they all like, why do we have to do so many things? Why are we toggling all these services and stuff? And it's just not been, it just never felt right to me. And so I think we're much, much closer now with being able to do this within actual policies. I'd be interested to see if you do this on Windows 10, what happens. We just haven't tried because, Windows 10 is old, man. Windows 11's been out for like 2 days. Let's use it, man.
Exactly.
All right. So we've gone in the weeds and we did we did it. We did the things. So we will share this code at some point. We will get it into a repo, and that will be available in the comments. If you made it this far, thank you for humoring us. And
if you didn't, we understand.
Yeah, jeez. But more importantly, I think Ben and I both have a really deep understanding of, we thought we understood how time zones worked and how all this stuff worked, and we've gone full circle all the way back around to, yep, that's pretty much what we said from the beginning, but now we've proven it.
Yes.
And also, don't do this on a VM.
Do not do it on a VM for so many reasons. Maybe one day we'll put that video up because it was pretty funny.
And hopefully you also adopt the idea that you need to have just a plain Jane regular user test account that you use to actually test your stuff with, because as you can see, like using an admin masks some issues that we otherwise wouldn't have picked up on. So the amount of time I spent the first time looking at that screen, trying to figure out why don't I see the time zone options at all. Then it finally dawned on me, oh, it's an admin thing. Like it was nuts. So anyway, thanks for sticking with us. And thanks, Ben, for just being patient and the umpteenth time at this point.
Anytime, Adam. Thanks again for everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.